Hello, everybody. Well, I'm very pleased today to be joined by Edward Price, singer, coach, runner, BBC singer, who is going to be singing with us, the Waverley Singers, at our next concert on the 30th of November in Alton, which we've called a Tapestry of Sound. And I think that's because there are a lot of different strands of music being woven by our conductor, Richard Pierce, into the program. And Edward, maybe we could start by you just telling me what you're going to be singing on the 30th.
Yes, thank you. And thank you so much for asking me to be involved in this podcast. It's great to be able to give a bit of this foresight before the concert. So yeah, I'm the main piece that I'm going to be joining you for is the Vaughan Williams Fantasia on Christmas carols, which is a piece I've known and loved for many years. And I'm always delighted to be asked to come along and sing that because, for me, it just creates this splendid kind of old-fashioned Christmas atmosphere with those traditional carols and the way they're blended together, and with particularly with Vaughan Williams's wonderful harmony and the way he writes for voices. So really looking forward to singing that with you. And then I'm joining you for a couple of other numbers that you're doing where there are some baritone solos. There's a Jacob's Ladder, the Stephen Darlington arrangement of that, and John Rutter's arrangement of O Come, O Come Emmanuel. There are some little baritone solos in that, which I would be delighted to join you for. And then I think Rich has put this at the start of the program. I'm also going to sing the Advent antiphon, the Rorate Caeli, Drop Down Ye Heavens. I just thought he asked me if there was something else I could sing, and I just thought, well, that is it's a really simple plain chant based tune, but for me really beautiful, and hopefully will set the atmosphere for the concert really nicely as you say, that tapestry of sound, because it'll start very simply. It'll start with a few threads, to use that metaphor of chant, and hopefully that'll help the concert build through.
I think that'll be a terrific start, actually, particularly in that church. I don't know if you've ever been to St. Lawrence Church in Alton, but it's a historic church. It's still got bullet holes in the main door from the English Civil War. But when the lights are low, it's a really magical atmosphere. So I think kicking off with that Rorate Caeli will be, and then I think you go straight into the Rutter from that, or we go into the
Uh-huh.
Rutter
Yeah.
straight off. So I think that'll be a really good start to the concert.
Oh, lovely.
Why is it called, I've seen it called the Advent Prose. I mean, that's a rather sort of unglamorous title for it, isn't it?
Yeah, no, do you know what? I don't actually know. I should probably check out why it is called the Advent Prose, and what that. I imagine that must have some sort of liturgical connotation as to why it's called a prose rather than anything else. But that's something for me to check out, so I know a bit more when I actually turn up to sing it. So there we go. But yeah, and really nice to know that the church has that atmosphere. And interestingly enough, small connections, and this is just discovering this now about those Civil War bullet holes. We also have a few of those in the church in my town in Leighton Buzzard as well. So there we go. What a nice little connection there.
Well, and talking about connections, you were obviously at Cambridge, and so was Richard, our conductor. But I suspect he was probably there a bit before you. What's your connection with him? How do you know each other?
Well, I know Richard very well through my work in the BBC Singers. I'm a staff baritone in the BBC Singers, and I have been for over 20 years now. And Richard is one of our very regular and very favourite rehearsal pianists and conductors as well. So I've known Richard down the years with the BBC Singers, and so that's my connection with him. And yeah, very delighted that he asked me to come along and sing with you guys. But yes, you're right. We didn't quite overlap at Cambridge. I think he was maybe 5 years before me, but something like that. But yeah, no, Richard is he's absolutely brilliant, and I've sung with him a few times, because one of the things we have to do as the BBC Singers is we have to sort of every other year we have to sing something to our chief conductor, just as a sort of a way of, not, it's not a re-audition, but a way of just, connecting and being able to listen and see how we're doing. And Richard's always the pianist for that. And it's always wonderful to know that he is there, because it's someone you know well and know is just going to support you very nicely.
Yeah, it's great to have a conductor or an accompanist who's actually on your side, isn't it?
Oh, it makes all the difference. Yeah, no, completely.
Well, maybe Ed, we could just track back then and get you to tell us how it was that you got to Cambridge as a choral scholar, and what at what stage in your life did you think, hey, you know what, I might be a singer?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I started singing as a boy. I wasn't a chorister in a cathedral, but I had that sort of training in a prep school choir. So I learned all the ropes through that, and all those skills that you need, sight reading and teamwork and blend and all of that. And then went on a music scholarship to another school, and that led me to the choral scholarships at Cambridge. I was at Clare College for 3 years, and then I did a year as a postgrad at King's College, Cambridge, which was a very wonderful year, and gave me a chance to do lots of exciting things like the 9 lessons and carols, and all of that side of that life. But interestingly, when I left King's, that was in 1998, I wasn't completely sure whether I wanted to carry on being a professional singer, because I guess I was still only in my early 20s, and you're never quite sure where your voice is going. And I wanted to keep my options open, so I didn't go straight into being a full-time professional singer. I went and worked with a music agency and a record producer, a chap called John Boyden, who had founded Classics for Pleasure back in the 70s, a really amazing guy to work for. So I spent a few years working with him, but then doing a bit of freelance singing as well as doing that. So just kind of building into it. And it was just after a few years of doing that I did then realize, no, singing is the thing for me. This is my true love. This is what I want to follow. My voice had perhaps settled. I felt I'd gained a bit of confidence in it, I suppose, to know that it was something that I could, possibly give a good go at as a career. And it was at that time that, a job opportunity in the BBC Singers came up. And I thought, well, I'll put my name in the ring, see what happens. If nothing else, maybe I can get onto their extras list. And lo and behold, they gave me the job, and I've been doing that ever since. So yeah, it was almost. I look back and I wonder, because I wasn't expecting. I was still early on in my career, really. I wasn't expecting to get that job. I wonder whether that helped, because it sort of took the pressure off, and I was kind of unnervous in the auditions. Just thought, well, I'll go and have a nice sing, see what happens, and there we are. It's gone from there.
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure there's an important lesson there. If you're too wound up and if you try too hard, you're unlikely to give of your best. But I have to say, I've seen there's a lovely video of you. It's on your website on YouTube, of you singing in the carols from King's, I think in December 1997, the Pretorius, the Three Kings, which is absolutely lovely. And I mean, yeah, I think looking at that, you would say, yeah, that guy, definitely a singer. So it's good that you took a few years to make the final decision, but I reckon the die was cast.
Oh yeah, well, it could have been, but the thing was that at Cambridge at the time there were a load of really good singers, and they were all going off to London on to the next stage, and it was very competitive even then, and I'd sort of got that thought, oh, do I want to be battling against these guys for another few years at music college? So it was I think it was partly that made me want to just take my time and make sure I knew I was doing the right thing.
So maybe we could just talk a bit more about the BBC Singers then, because as you say, you've been with them for over 20 years now, and we've had some of your colleagues have come. I mean, a year ago we had Peter and Jimmy came, and Peter Davern and Jimmy Holiday came and sang in our concert. We're all great fans of the BBC Singers. We were as horrified as anybody else when it looked as though they might be for the chop. And as delighted as everyone else when they got a sort of a stay and hopefully a permanent one. But tell us a little bit more about your work with the BBC Singers and what sort of things you do as a staff member.
Well, I mean, as a staff member, you are there doing your job week in, week out. And what I love about the job, and I think what sort of sustained me to be there for the time I have, is that there is such an incredible variety of work that we do, and that it's a different program every week. And that sort of refreshing of the material and the conductors that you work with and the venues is so important, because with the best will in the world, you can't always be loving every program as your favorite one each time. There are some which you're more suited to and that you enjoy more. But if it's one of those programs which isn't your favorite, it doesn't matter. You know that next week it's going to be something totally different. And that allows you just to invest everything you've got in that moment and find a way to make the most of all of those situations. And, the last few weeks have just been an example of that. I mean, last week we were in Southampton in the Turner Sims Hall at the university, giving a concert that involved Joby Talbot's extraordinary Path of Miracles, his huge sort of over hour-long a cappella work, which sort of traces the pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela. And, amazing work. So we did that, and then the next day in Southampton we did workshops with some of the student singers, student conductors, and also with a composer who was resident in Southampton University. So that was last week. But then the week before that, I'd had a bit of a trip down memory lane, because we were back in King's College, Cambridge, with Daniel Hyde doing a performance of Mendelssohn's Elijah, with Sir Simon Keenlyside as the baritone soloist as Elijah, which was an incredible thing. But then the week before that, we'd done an opera in the Barbican. And then the week before that, just a studio program, preparing some stuff ready to go out on the radio at Christmas. So, just within the last 4 weeks, you can see the variety of what we do. And I guess that's the other thing as well, is there's always that challenge, because your voice has to be adaptable to all those different styles, situations, and venues and conductors that you're working with. And I love that. I love the fact that each week brings its new set of things that you've got to get your head around, and indeed your voice around, to make sure that you are delivering what's required. And there we are. And so, from now on, we are building up to our Christmas. Although the BBC Singers tend to do Christmas a little bit differently. We don't, have it quite the same as other church choirs, but we've still got plenty of fun things coming up.
Well, I hope you're doing the new carols competition again this year, are you, on Radio 3?
No, this year it is not happening this year. Whether that's going to be a permanent thing, I think it had 10 years. And I think this year it's been decided to give it a rest. Those are things above my pay grade, so I don't know quite why they've happened. Although I have to say, much as I enjoy doing that, the singing at 7:30 in the morning on Radio 3 is not something I'll necessarily miss so much this year.
Well, maybe you've all deserved a year off. Let's hope it's that.
Yeah.
But I mean, just going back to what you're saying, I mean, the other thing that comes across very strongly, and perhaps this will lead us into what I wanted to talk about next, which is your work as a coach, is the obvious kind of camaraderie and the whole being much greater than the sum of the parts, the teamwork, I guess, people sort of supporting each other in the BBC Singers. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, teamwork is the key to everything. And actually, I think, given the variety of work that we do, the knowledge that you have colleagues who have their strengths in different areas and who can bring that to the different programs that we do becomes so powerful in allowing you to know that, even if it's something that's, a style of music that's not absolutely your strongest point, the guy standing next to you, he's got it. He's there. He's going to sort you out. And you just know that. And it becomes, of course, when you work together in a small group, we're only 18 and we're working all the time, it sort of becomes instinctive. You don't need to be talking about it. I know I stand next to my regular colleague, Mr. Andy Rupp, and we will know when we're going to breathe, if it's a staggered breathing thing. We don't have to go and mark it in. It just sort of happens. You get that understanding. And that only comes when you are working together as a group that regularly. And I think what it does is it means that, you can relax and just think about delivering the music, what it is that you want to give your audience, that experience, because those nuts and bolts they're established, they're in place. And I find it, I love it. I mean, the teamwork, the friendship is something very, very special. And I think, when we had our difficulties, if I can call them that, 18 months or so ago, that was the thing that I think a lot of us were most scared about losing, really, was the friendships and that ability to know that you're with an incredible team and a brilliant bunch of colleagues.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Andrew Rupp, because of course he's sung with us before, and he is going to sing Elijah in our Elijah, which is coming up as really kicking off our Platinum Jubilee celebrations next March. So I have to take the opportunity for a little plug for our workshop in January, so preparing for that, and then we have the concert in March, as I say. So yeah, we're doing well with our BBC Singer friends, I have to say.
Well, there we go. And I must say, I mean, it's one of the things that we love doing, because I do quite a lot of learning and outreach work with the singers, and the whole thing about the singing community in this country is that it is so broad and encompasses, from us as full-time professionals to the wonderful network of amateur choirs who do so much to keep choral music going and to give that pleasure. And so, from my point of view, to come and sing with choirs like yours is just such an important part of what I do, because what your choir is doing is giving so many opportunities in your community for people to enjoy the music, singing together, and indeed that teamwork and camaraderie that we're working with. And so for me, it's really important to support that in whatever way I can, be it coming as a soloist or doing workshops with choirs, and particularly with young people as well, actually. I mean, we're perhaps moving on to that now with, that side, the BBC Singers. One of the great joys that I have is working with young people up and down the country, to be honest, doing workshops, teaching them repertoire that they might then come and perform together, such as some of the wonderful occasions that we've had choirs at the Albert Hall for proms and other such things. And that sense of, as it were, passing on my love and a few of my skills, such as they are, to young people is wonderfully enriching for me, actually, because it's a great leveler. Everyone understands what it is to sing together, even if that's just singing along at a football match. It doesn't matter. Everyone's experienced it, and everyone knows what a thrill and what a wonderfully kind of life enhancing thing it is.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And I think for choirs like ours, it's not just about us coming together and having a lot of fun singing, but it's also just trying to promote the joy of singing. And actually, we're experimenting next summer. We're trying something which we're calling the Waverley Sing, because we're the Waverley Singers. But it won't it won't be like one of our standard workshops. It'll be where we bring in, or we invite other choirs locally, including school choirs, so young people in particular, just to come for a day, and basically everyone to perform something of their own, but then we will also work together on something that at the end of the day we will perform together. And I think the idea is just to sort of get the message out there to the community, hey, look, this is singing, it's fun. And as I think you've got a very funny blog on your website where people say, well, I can't sing, and then you sort of they sing lustily in the pub, or probably in the shower, as you said. Actually just sort of giving people the confidence that everyone's got a voice, everyone can sing, actually. And it's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah. Oh no, completely. And and people, they once they're freed up from worrying about what they sound like and just getting on and delivering and having fun, that to me is the key. We get too worried about what we look like, what we sound like, this, that, and the other. And yeah, and for something like, I think your Waverley Sing sounds absolutely brilliant for that. You know, bringing different people together with different experiences and just saying, hey, look, we're gonna find joy in this together, and there'll be no there's no kind of prejudgment of what you're going to bring. You're just going to do it, and let's see what happens. I think that's really wonderful, and I wish you luck with it.
Well, thank you. Well, Ed, maybe we could just move on to talk a bit about your work as a coach, because that's very interesting. And you know, you do it in three different areas. It's partly sort of executive and life coaching. It's partly about sort of public speaking and presentation. But then on top of that, it's running. So you're a secret runner as well. So tell us how this all hangs together.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, so that the running coaching is something. I mean, I've always run. I was one of those weird people who actually enjoyed cross country at school, and have carried on doing it. And you know, I joined a running club again. I mean, you know, and this again, you talk about supportive communities. You know, places like that are amazing because you get people from all walks of life, but with a common interest. And I kind of thought, you know, I think I could maybe have something else to offer. So I took some coaching courses and qualifications through UK Athletics, and have been doing that ever since. And you know, that sense of being able to support other people has perhaps been the driving force for all the coaching that I've done, in a way, and the training that I've done with that. You know, the public speaking one came about because I had so many people who told me that they were nervous about speaking in public, and you know, and wondered what it was that gave me the confidence to stand up and sing or whatever in front of others. And it seemed to me that the crossover was so plain about, you know, understanding how your voice works, not about the content of the speech. That's fine, because for most people it's their expertise, and if it's something they're passionate about, that's not the problem. It's then being able to translate that into delivering it. And here's where the running and the singing overlap, because for me, always the key with these things is understanding that all these activities are whole body experiences. That's not just, you know, speaking is not just from your mouth and from your throat. It involves the whole body. And of course, running's the same. It's not just with your feet. It's what your head's doing. It's what your arms are doing. And so in a way, my kind of philosophy on all these things developed from the understanding that being in tune with what you are doing as a whole is the key to unlocking your confidence in all these areas. And I suppose in some ways that was where the life coaching thing came in, because this was in discussion with a guy at my running club, actually. And he said, "Oh, funnily enough, I know this guy who does this," and it is about that being able to be aware and to be self-reflective and to you know, not be kind of taking those exterior influences above what you're actually being able to generate yourself internally, be that physically or emotionally. So that led me to an interest in the life coaching things. And I don't do so much of that now as any sort of, you know, professional capacity, but I try and bring the understanding and the skills I've learned with that into the other things I do, be that working with young children, particularly, you know, with the singing thing, because you know, sometimes there are a few, you know, barriers and blocks that go up with a bunch of kids who have got their own sort of areas of being self-conscious. And so to be able to kind of find a way to release that through allowing people to take ownership of what they're doing has been really helpful for me in developing those other areas of coaching that I do. So I hope that sort of somehow makes it clear. I sort of rambled on a bit about it, but for me, they do all interlink really, really carefully, you know, really clearly, and you know, they inform each other.
No, it makes perfect sense. And you know, particularly the link between singing and public speaking. And the old thing they always used to say to you, "Well, take a few deep breaths, you know, before you go on stage." Well, I mean, it's obvious, really, isn't it? And the vital importance of breathing, getting the breathing right when you're singing. It's really all part and parcel of the same thing. So, and I can imagine, I'm not a runner, Ed, I have to be honest here, but I can well imagine that the same sort of ability to relax and be in touch with your body is absolutely central to sort of being running properly.
Oh yeah, I mean, being in touch with your breathing is crucial. So many people when they run, they're not, and the breathing. So I talk about, you being in touch with your breathing and having a sort of as much of a control over it as you can, rather than the breathing controlling you. Because if people, if and that's what can lead people to feel out of breath or feel that they haven't got that right sort of pattern, because they're not aware of what their breath is doing. As simple as, how many steps per breath am I doing? All, stuff like that, which allows you to be much more aware of what's going on, really. And awareness for me is the key.
Great. Well, thanks ever so much, Ed. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and very much looking forward to meeting you in person on the 30th of November in Alton, and to enjoying your singing with us at our concert. Thank you very much.
Not at all. Very much looking forward to the concert, and look forward to seeing you on the 30th.